deep beneath the vast, rolling turquoise waves, where the sun's golden light fades into a shimmering, ethereal blue twilight, there lies a magnificent and sprawling coral kingdom guarded by glowing reefs and ancient mysteries of the abyss. The powerful Sea King, distinguished by his flowing silver beard and a majestic trident forged from fallen starlight, reigned over 6 beautiful mermaid princesses, among whom the youngest, Ariel, was the most dream-filled and contemplative of all, while her older sisters were perfectly content with the tranquil silence and predictable rhythms of the ocean floor. Ariel's heart and mind were entirely consumed by forbidden myths of the solid earth and the chaotic, sun-drenched life of humans. She would sit for hours at her grandmother's tale, listening to vivid, whispered memories that described the bustling coastal towns, the fragrant scent of blooming flowers, and the mesmerizing wonders of a world that existed entirely out of water. In a hidden, crystalline grotto carved into the jagged sea cliffs, Ariel kept a secret, cherished collection of shiny gold coins, elegant marble statues, and rare, rusted artifacts salvaged from the skeletal remains of long-lost shipwrecks. Upon finally reaching her momentous 15th birthday, the day she had long anticipated with a racing heart, she was granted the royal permission to swim to the crystal-clear surface to witness the forbidden horizon for the very first time. She emerged amidst a grand, towering sailing ship anchored under a silver moon, where a lavish birthday celebration was underway, filled with the echoes of lively music and pyrotechnics that painted the dark velvet sky in brilliant colors. On the polished deck, the flickering lantern light illuminated the handsome, noble face of a young prince, whose dark, soulful eyes and wind-swept hair captured Ariel's innocent heart at the very first sight, changing her destiny forever. Suddenly, a violent and merciless storm struck the vessel without any warning, snapping the tall timber masts like twigs and throwing the prince into the frigid, churning waves that threatened to swallow his mortal soul into the deep. Without a single moment's hesitation, Ariel plunged into the swirling, deadly vortex, using all her supernatural mermaid strength to lift the unconscious prince and carry him through the gale to the soft, pale sands of a nearby convent shore. She hid behind the jagged, salt-sprayed rocks until a young maiden from the convent discovered and rescued him, after which Ariel dove back into the foam with a heavy heart, his image forever burned into her eternal memory. From that fateful, tragic moment, a burning and uncontrollable desire to be transformed into a human, so she could walk beside him and earn his love, became a constant, painful obsession that haunted her every waking hour beneath the sea. Driven by a desperate and unyielding love that ignored all reason, she sought out the terrifying, bone-strewn lair of the sea witch Ursula, whose voice was like the crashing surf and whose dark sorcery was feared by all creatures. The cunning Ursula, with a predatory smile, agreed to grant her slender, graceful human legs in exchange for her shimmering, iridescent fishtail, which was the only way she could ever hope to integrate into the prince's foreign world. But the steep, heart-wrenching price demanded was Ariel's divine singing voice, the musical jewel of the entire ocean kingdom, which had to be permanently sealed away within a magical, glowing seashell, leaving her in absolute silence. "You shall have your human form," the witch warned with a cackle, "but every single step you take on land will haunt you with excruciating agony, as if sharp, invisible knives were piercing through your tender, new flesh." The cruelest and most heartless condition was that if the prince married anyone else within 3 days, Ariel would lose her only chance at gaining an eternal soul, transform into cold sea foam, and vanish into the waves forever. Disregarding the horrific threats and the loss of her identity, Ariel accepted the devilish bargain with a trembling hand, feeling the searing heat of the magic as her voice was drawn out and exchanged for her new, fragile legs. The sorceress performed the dark, rhythmic ritual, and Ariel felt her brilliant, powerful scales shrink and tear apart into 2 weak, human limbs, leaving her feeling utterly vulnerable and overwhelmed by a blinding, white-hot pain. She washed up on a secluded, rocky beach, and as her soft feet touched the coarse, burning sand, a numbing pain radiated through her entire being, forcing her to lie still on the damp shore as a stranger to herself. The prince, during his solitary morning walk, discovered the silent and mysterious girl, and being struck by her gentle beauty and the profound sorrow in her eyes, he brought her back to his grand seaside palace to recover. Ariel, despite the excruciating, daily torment of every movement, danced with a heartbreaking grace for the prince, her motions a silent, lyrical poetry that she masked with a brave and hopeful smile to hide her inner suffering. The prince grew to cherish her as a kindred spirit and a wonderful, silent companion. Yet he never once realized the deep, romantic, and sacrificial love that burned within her mute heart as she watched him from afar. In his distracted mind, the one who had truly saved his life during the great storm was still the maiden with the heavenly voice whom he believed he found by the convent, never suspecting Ariel was his true savior. Seeing their bond grow, the jealous sea witch Ursula decided to act, using her dark, manipulative sorcery to create a perfect, wicked trap for Ariel's innocent and fragile hopes of finding a place in the human world. She transformed herself into a stunning, golden-haired girl named Vanessa, using Ariel's stolen, magical voice to sing and enchant the prince, capturing his entire attention and devotion in a single, calculated instant of deception. The prince was immediately mesmerized by the familiar, haunting melody of the stolen voice, believing he had finally found his destined savior, and he never suspected the dark, monstrous identity hidden beneath the beautiful stranger's face. They swiftly arranged a royal wedding on a magnificent, flag-strewn ship, preparing for a union that would shatter Ariel's thin hopes of survival before the 3-day deadline had reached its inevitable and tragic end. Ariel stood in utter despair upon the high deck, watching the prince's ship glide away into the sunset, feeling her cruel fate closing in like the cold, rising tide of a darkening and indifferent evening sea. As the first pale light of dawn prepared to break across the horizon, she knew her mortal destiny would soon be sealed, and she would fade away into the ephemeral foam of the ocean she once called home. Suddenly, Ariel's mermaid sisters emerged from the dark waves, clutching a magical, glowing silver dagger they had obtained by trading their long, beautiful tresses of hair with the wicked and greedy sea witch of the deep. They handed the cold blade to Ariel, pleading through desperate tears, "You must slay the prince before the very first ray of sun rises. His warm blood will break the curse and return you to us." Ariel crept silently into the prince's royal sleeping quarters and watched him resting peacefully in the arms of his bride. But her immense and selfless love proved far stronger than her own instinct for survival. She could not bring herself to commit such a heartless and bloody act against the only man she had ever loved, even if it meant accepting her own quiet, lonely, and inevitable demise at the break of day. As the first rays of the morning sun turned the horizon into a streak of fire and gold, Ariel dropped the silver dagger into the deep and cast herself heroically into the cold, waiting waters of the sea. She felt her physical body beginning to dissolve into millions of soft, white bubbles, floating lightly and aimlessly upon the calm and silent surface of the vast, waking ocean as the world began to stir. At that exact, divine moment of destiny, the daughters of the air, ethereal spirits of light and goodness, appeared to her in a warm and gentle glow, surrounding her with a sense of peace she had never known. They whispered to Ariel that because of her noble self-sacrifice and her pure, unconditional love that transcended her own life, she had been granted a rare and sacred chance to earn a truly immortal human soul. The little mermaid felt her being lifted upward toward the clouds, freed from her physical pain and her mortal, silent form, becoming a spirit of the air as light and free as a summer breeze over the water. She drifted high over the sea, smiling down at the mourning prince with a heart full of forgiveness, waiting for her centuries of quiet service to finally lead her to an eternal and peaceful reunion in the heavens.